It's written, because in much wisdom there is much grief, and increasing knowledge results in increasing pain. And the Lord told us that his people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, he says, I will also reject you from being my priests. And Paul writes and says, what I am doing I will continue to do, that I may cut off opportunity from those who desire an opportunity to be regarded just as we are in the matter about which they are boasting. People who are boasting and want to be held in the same regard as these men, these prophets, these apostles, and these saints. This knowledge that I'm about to give you, I warn you, you may find offensive or even disturbing, but the hour has come. This is the saints' 1,000-year reign. And it says, I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of the testimony of Jesus and because of the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark upon their forehead or upon their hand. And they came to life, and they reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who has part in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power. But they will be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. These have been beheaded because of the testimony of Jesus and because of the word of God. Blessed and holy is the one who has part in this first resurrection. For it's written again, let us rejoice and be glad and give glory to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. It was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean, for the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. And the angel said to John, write, blessed are those who are invited or called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are true words of God. John fell at the angel's feet to worship him, and he said to John, do not do that. I am a fellow servant of yours and your brethren who hold the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, he said, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. For it says, he who has received his testimony has set his seal to this, that God is true. For he whom God has sent speaks the words of God, for he gives the Spirit without measure. So those who have received his testimony have set their seal to this, that God is true, because God testified concerning his Son. No one receives the Father's testimony, because the Father testified concerning his Son. These are called by the Father, and have received the testimony from the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. As Jesus himself also said, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. The Father calls us with a holy calling. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God. And it's written, we love God because he first loved us. To those who are called according to his purpose, for whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. Conformed to the image of his Son. Changed to be just like him, that the Son might be the firstborn among many brethren. And whom he predestined, these he also called, and whom he called, these he also justified, and whom he justified, these he also glorified. He called these men that wrote these words in these pages. These men have been justified and are forever glorified in the word of God, which will live and abide forever. It will never pass away. These men were foreknown before the foundation of the world, like Jesus Christ. And as he told the prophet Jeremiah, before I sowed you in the womb, I knew you and predestined you to be a prophet to the nations. These men were foreknown and predestined before the foundation of the world and called at their proper time. They have received, again, the testimony from the Father concerning his Son. And the apostle and prophet Paul writes, "Do not be ashamed of the testimony of our Lord or of me, his prisoner, but join with me in suffering for the gospel according to the power of God, who has saved us and called us with a holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purpose, and grace which was granted us in Christ Jesus from all eternity. He saved us and called us with a holy calling. Therefore do not be ashamed," he said, "of the testimony of our Lord, but join with him in suffering for the gospel according to the power of God." Join with him in suffering. As he writes in another verse, "If we suffer, we shall also reign with him." So let us turn back to the book of Revelation. It said that they are beheaded because of the testimony of Jesus and because of the word of God. They suffer and they are killed, persecuted. For again it says, "The dragon, who is Satan, was enraged with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring, or the remnant seed, who keep the commandments of God and hold the testimony of Jesus." Satan is enraged with these individuals and goes out to wage war with them, to persecute them and kill them, remove them from the earth. These are the heirs of the kingdom with Christ. And as the prophet Isaiah says, "To the law and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them." And Paul made it clear that the testimony concerning Jesus is confirmed in them. These are his disciples, prophets, and apostles. "Bind up the testimony," he says, "and seal the law among my disciples." But what does it take to be a disciple? Jesus himself said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." They hate even their own life. He said again in another verse, that these overcame because of the blood of the Lamb, his sacrifice, and because of the word of their testimony, the testimony of Jesus. And they did not love their life even to death. For this reason rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. They overcome by the sacrifice of the Lamb, and because of the word of their testimony, because of the testimony that they received from the Father concerning his Son. The testimony which is the spirit of prophecy, the testimony that the prophets receive, the chosen, the elect, those who will come to life and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. The rest will not come to life until the 1,000 years is completed. These are the blessed and the holy, who were called to the marriage supper of the Lamb, called with a holy calling, born again, spiritually circumcised, and caused to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments. As it's written, blessed is the one you choose and cause to approach you, that we may dwell in your courts. These individuals will come to life to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. Again, as it says, they are priests of God and of Christ. Conformed to the image of the Son, made into the image of the Son, caused to be born again, as it said. Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead and the ruler of the kings of the earth, to him who loves us and released us from our sins by his blood. And he made us to be a kingdom priest to his God and Father. To him, God the Father, be the glory forever. Amen. They were made, caused to be a kingdom priest. Indeed, there are many men and women who boast in regard to these men, making themselves equal. Many of them preaching a rapture, teaching a false hope that God's just going to snatch you up out of the world. They teach this ignorance because they don't understand the order of the affairs of the resurrections and who the first fruits and who the household of God is. Because humility is lost in this age. Pride has blossomed. Everyone thinks there's something they're not. And Paul said, if anyone thinks there's something when they're not, they deceive themselves. If anyone thinks there's something when they're nothing, he said, they deceive themselves. The testimony is confirmed in these individuals. They're prophets and apostles and saints. An individual can be all three, and a teacher and a preacher. Jesus was all of them. So was Paul. So was Peter. So was Philip. So was Moses. Moses was like God. Moses was a prophet like Jesus, or Jesus was a prophet like Moses. These men were called and caused to be circumcised of the heart and born again. There's only 144,000 of these individuals. They are the redeemed. How many does it say are redeemed? 144,000. Anyone that found one of these individuals and listened and believed them will serve them in the new kingdom.